Today is International Women's Day, and this year's focus is Embrace Equity. Equity has been in the headlines a lot lately as our women's Olympic soccer team has been advocating for equity with the men's team. DEI, or Diversity, Equity, Inclusion experts agree that one of the most important steps to address equity is around pay and pay transparency. To learn more about what can be done to address this issue is Elaine, DEI representative and director at Intel Canada. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Elaine.
Good morning, Annette. Great to be here.
Let's start with what is equity in the workplace and why it is so important.
Yeah, so let's break that down. Equity recognizes that not all people are afforded the same opportunities and tries to address the imbalance of opportunities available to them. So workplace equity is about the effort to close racial and gender gaps in employee pay and advancement, and aims to create a level playing field, which is so important because this can impact both the ability to attract and retain talent.
What's the difference between workplace equity and workplace equality?
Yeah, great question, because the words are so similar and yet they're very different. I like to think of it as equity being the process and equality being the goal.
How far off are we from having both of those in the workplace in this country right now?
It's an ongoing process, Annette, and what I can tell you is that at Intel, we've been committed to providing a workplace environment where employees from all backgrounds are valued, respected, challenged, acknowledged, and rewarded so they can achieve their full potential. A large part of this, and you referred to it earlier about transparency, data transparency is critical in order to track progress, identify key areas for action and improvement, and to celebrate achievement of milestones. As we know, the Canada Pay Equity Act came into being last year, and employers have until next September to publish their pay equity plans. So here are 3 examples from Intel that businesses could consider adopting as they put those policies together. So back in 2008, we actually linked a portion of our executive and employee compensation to corporate social responsibility metrics, including equity and inclusion. And even though we achieved gender pay equity globally back in 2019, our legal and human resources teams continue to work with third-party experts using proven statistical modeling techniques to monitor and advance global pay equity. And then 3 years ago, we announced our 2030 goals for advancing diversity and inclusion at every level, not just in our business, but across the industry. And these goals are foundational to our business and our purpose to creating world-changing technology to enrich the lives of every person on Earth.
Some companies such as Intel Canada are far above or ahead, if you will, or perhaps we should say where we should be. Others still lag behind in equality and equity in the workplace. And obviously it's important for employers to make this a priority now. We know that in 2023. But what about employees? What kind of steps can they do to advocate for themselves in the workplace?
That's a really important point that you're raising, Annette. And I think we really need to acknowledge that while this is important for employers to manage, it's not strictly on them. Employees also need to be invested in order to make change happen. I would encourage you to go into your office, speak with your manager, and encourage them to annually assess and close pay gaps to address pay equity. And I also encourage both women and men not to be silent on this issue. Talk to your managers about the importance of embracing equity and how it'll support Canadian families.
Well said. Elaine, Intel Canada, DEI spokesperson, thank you so much for joining us on the issue today.
Thanks, Annette.
All right, still to come on the show, we